Welcome to Tabletop Gaming Guild. Today we'll be finishing up my top 100 with number 11 through 20. Now if you haven't already seen the top 10 that we did as a group, you should probably check that out right after you watch this. But you don't want to miss the games that are in this 10 because there are some incredible games. Almost all of them have been on my top 10 at some point, and that's a testament to how incredible the games that are coming out are, that these games could be supplanted. My number 20 is an engine builder with a very pleasant theme and some unique mechanics, and that is Wingspan. Now, in Wingspan, you are putting birds into habitats, but those habitats also represent the actions you can take. So as you're putting birds into a habitat, you're increasing the strength of the action. On top of that, your birds give you bonuses you can take when you take those actions. So everything's going to be ramping up as you go, but like all engine builders, you have to make a choice of when to stop building your engine and start going for points. Overall, this is a really pleasant game with a theme that appeals to a broad audience. It is a good game, but it's also a good way to test the waters to see if a newer gamer is ready for something a little bit more involved. The next game on my list is a phenomenal game that I absolutely love. The only thing that drops it out of the top 10 for me now is the length. It's slightly on the longer end. It usually takes about 2 hours, sometimes more depending on the players, but that is Terraforming Mars. Yes, I know Ares Expedition is a thing now and a lot of people like it more than this version, but to me it's a very different game and I haven't played enough of Ares Expeditions to put it on my list at all. If you haven't heard of Terraforming Mars before, first off, how? Secondly, it is a card drafting, engine building, or combo building, really, game where you are going to have tons of cards that you're going to be going through and getting as many cards out as possible, managing your resources and increasing your income and resource generation throughout the game to try to get as many points by playing cards. And essentially beyond the cards, you are also interacting with the board. Basically, cards can make you put tiles on the board to terraforming, so wood, water, cities. But I think the thing that really makes it work is the interactions between the cards. The combos are really cool, and the board element has a light hand to it, so you can focus on the cards as much as you want. The player interaction and the take that elements in this game do exist, but they're pretty minimal. The focus of this game is absolutely in that combo building. My number 18 may get me in a little trouble with James because he absolutely worships this designer. But in my defense, 18 is a really high number and there is very tight differentiations between the numbers at this point in my list. And the game is Blood Rage. It's an absolutely phenomenal game that we can't avoid talking about when we're talking about top 10s or our favorite games. It comes up all the time in our show. It's basically a dudes on the map game. You're deploying units, attacking other people, trying to pillage villages, and improve the stats of your clan. It has some pretty cool monsters that you can get on the board that have awesome powers, and there's nice minis to go along with them. If you did the full Kickstarters, you got lots of content for this game. And unlike a lot of CMON games, you don't need the full Kickstarter and all the content to really enjoy this game. This base game is solid, and you can play and enjoy just as much with just the base game. The key things that makes it stand out and why I think it's an incredible game is the fact that whether you win or lose, you really enjoy this game. You could get completely trounced but still have tons of fun playing this game. My number 17 is one of the best Emergent story games, and that is Dead of Winter. So in Dead of Winter, you're trying to defend your colony of survivors from zombie attacks, and there's going to be various story prompts that may pop up that give you choices about how you're going to react to things. Well, those are really cool. What is really even more powerful is the story that emerges from that. The story that you tell between your friends based on elaborating on this small little paragraph of text That it can be silly stories, it can be sad stories, but you will remember the stories you come up with, to the point where even if you haven't played the game in a while and have completely forgotten the rules, you'll still remember what the Mall Santa did 5 years ago in that game. It's a pretty powerful game, and there are some really interesting things that come out of it. For example, you have your own objective, but you can watch people and see how they prioritize the good of the group over their personal objectives. It's one of the only games I've ever encountered where people will intentionally sacrifice themselves and lose the game in order so that the greater group can win. We're getting even darker with the themes with the next one. That's Letters from Whitechapel, my favorite hidden movement game. Probably the cleanest of the hidden movement games, where essentially what's going to happen is somebody plays a Jack the Ripper, and the other players play as the police, and the Jack the Ripper is going to secretly write down where he's moving based on set movement rules. And the police are going to be searching the maps, and they can ask at different locations, have you been here before? Jack the Ripper player only has to tell them if they've been there before. Even if they're currently there, all they have to say is, I've been there before. And so the police are trying to follow a trail of breadcrumbs and of like places that the killer has been before. When they're confident they know where he is, then they can try to make an arrest. And that's intriguing enough, but this adds to that by making it a multi-night game. So if Jack the Ripper succeeds in his first murder, which in most cases he will, he then has to go and have a more challenging murder the next day, but his hideout that he has to escape to is still the same place. So if he's given too many clues of where he was headed after the last murder, he has a higher chance of getting caught during this one. It's a really fun hidden movement game without all the fuss of complicated rule sets. So if you like any element of deduction and reason, this is an excellent game for you. My number 15 is another game that every game I played of it has been an incredible experience. But like Terraforming Mars, it's on the long end, so I don't get it to the table as much as I'd like. And that's Zaya. If I could get this to the table every day, this would be my number one game. Even though there's a little bit of clunkiness because it is a slightly older title and there's definitely some areas it could be improved. It's an epic sandbox space exploration game that I absolutely adore. They say the game takes about 1 to 3 hours, but I wouldn't imagine you'd ever play this in less than 3 hours. It is a fairly involved game, and the expansion is absolutely essential to fix some of the minor issues. But there's so much you can do in this game. You can upgrade your ships, you can explore, you can trade, you can do combat and hunt down pirates, and it's phenomenal. If it was slightly shorter, I would play this all the time. My number 14 is one of the best social experiences I've ever had, and that's with King's Dilemma. So in King's Dilemma, you are representing your family and guiding the fate of the kingdom. In each round of the game, the kingdom is going to face a dilemma, and the families are going to vote on which solution they want to favor. And once the votes are determined, the stats of the kingdom are going to be altered, and you're going to progress the story of the kingdom down a set path, because every choice represents a branching path that's going to change the kingdom. And at no point did I feel like no matter what we chose that you're going to be leading down the same path. No, it feels like the end state of the game is going to be completely different than the end state somebody else reached. Your ethical choices will definitely color the nature of the kingdom and every choice that follows. Whether that means that you have a authoritative kingdom that abuses its people, or a kindly king that rules through right and justice. That is all up to the families. It's so easy for these story games to end up feeling like a choose your own adventure, where no matter what choice you do choose, there is only one right end state. This one never felt like that. There's such a variety of branches that I don't think any game will be exactly the same. Next we have a game that I got a lot of guff for not having in my top 10 last year. However, it was my number 13 last year, and it's still my number 13, and that's Dune Imperial. And 13 is a really solid number, and the fact that it stayed pat where it was really is a good sign that it's a really excellent game. On top of that, it did actually drop on everybody else's list. In fact, it dropped off of Evan's. So I would instead say I think I placed this pretty accurately and didn't get sucked in by the newness of the game last year. That said, it is an excellent game. It is a worker placement combined with a deck builder, and it has an interesting mechanic of the cards are designated to specific areas of the board. So as you play cards, it'll tell you where you can place the workers. For example, there is a section of the board dedicated to factions, and you can only go to those worker placement spots if you have the symbol on the card that represent that faction. The other interesting and unique mechanic is the cards you play for actions are one thing, but then at the end of your turn, the cards you still have in your hand are what add to your income for buying cards and for increased combat strength. So what cards you don't play can be just as important as the ones you do. Next we have a game that pushed Dead of Winter off my top 10 before being pushed off itself, which is Forgotten Waters. This is app assisted, so you have a lot of voice acted lines that really add to the theme and the feel of the game, and I don't particularly like reading out loud, so I definitely prefer having that voice acted content. But I think what makes this game really fun is the amount of lighthearted and silly content that it throws in there. Anywhere from throwing Mad Libs into the content or having a silly quest to hunt for the captain's hat. It's just fun, light, and you don't know what to expect next because it's all in the app. You can't, accidentally see something you're not supposed to see yet. So now we're into the last game of this list with a game that's relatively old but fairly new to me. In this game, I'm very excited that it's coming to Kickstarter for a reboot soon, and that's Cichlidies. In many ways, Cichlidies is a classic style Euro, but it has a lot of unique mechanics to it that are very interesting. First off, your actions are determined by bidding on the various gods that are available each round. And I really like the bidding mechanisms of once you're outbid, you can rebid for a different god, and you can keep rebidding every time you're outbid. You already have some interesting strategies that come out of just that. For example, you may not want to bid on the actions you actually want initially, so that when somebody outbids you, you can rebid on the actions you really want. And beyond that is basically dudes on the map where you're claiming territories, building up those territories, and trying to expand into new territories. It's a great classic, it's easy to learn, it plays fast, it has a lot of variety, and it's a lot of fun. So that's it for my top 100. As I said, if you haven't already checked out the top 10 that we did as a group, go and check that out. But anything on my top 100 are absolutely phenomenal games, all worthwhile to try out. That said, I want to thank you for watching my top 100. Hope you enjoyed and watched the whole way through, and hope you will continue to enjoy our content. There's always more available. We're bringing out new videos every day. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check us out on other social media such as Instagram and Facebook, and don't forget to like and subscribe.